From guys fighting for a single game in the NHL to generational superstars making $15 million a year, the hockey world has more player levels than most fans realize. Today I'm breaking down every single tier of NHL players. And trust me, some of these categories will surprise you. Let's start from the bottom and work our way to the absolute elite. Starting at level 1, we have the training camp invitee. These are the guys who get invited to NHL training camps on professional tryout contracts, basically auditioning for a spot. They're usually older players trying to extend their careers or IHL veterans hoping for one last shot at the big leagues. Most training camp invitees make around $750,000 if they actually make the team, which only happens about 10% of the time. But wait, here's where it gets interesting. Take a guy like Chris Terry, who spent years as an AHL star but only got NHL chances through training camp invites. This man scored 30 goals multiple times in the AHL, but could never stick in the NHL. Think about that for a second. 30 goals is elite production in the second best league in the world, yet he couldn't crack an NHL roster. These players are essential for teams during preseason games and practices, giving coaches extra bodies to evaluate their actual roster players against. The harsh reality? Most training camp invitees know they're probably not making the team, but they show up anyway, because you never know when an injury might open a door. Some teams bring in 5 or 6 of these guys every September, and maybe one sticks around past October if they're lucky. Level 2 brings us to the AHL Journeyman. Now, this is where things get really tough. These players have accepted their role as professional hockey players who primarily play in the American Hockey League, one step below the NHL. They make between $70,000 and $400,000 per year, depending on their contract and experience. But here's what nobody tells you about these guys. AHL Journeymen are the backbone of minor league hockey. Guys who might get a handful of NHL games here and there, but spend most of their careers riding buses between cities like Providence, Hershey, and Rochester. Picture this. You're Kenny Agostino, scoring consistently in the AHL, lighting up scoreboards night after night, but never quite translating that success to the NHL level. You know what's wild? These players often serve as mentors to younger prospects in the AHL, teaching them what it takes to be a professional while still holding on to their own NHL dreams. Many AHL journeymen are former high draft picks who didn't quite pan out, or college stars who needed more development time. They play a crucial role in NHL organizations by keeping AHL teams competitive while being ready to fill in during injury crises. The lifestyle is brutal: 12-hour bus rides, smaller paychecks, and less glamorous arenas. But these players love hockey enough to keep grinding. Some eventually transition into coaching or scouting roles, using their extensive knowledge of the professional game. Moving up to level 3, we find the NHL Callup. This is where dreams start becoming reality, even if it's temporary. These players bounce between the AHL and NHL throughout the season, getting called up when injuries hit or teams need fresh legs. They typically earn the league minimum of $775,000 when they are in the NHL. But here's the catch. That salary gets prorated based on how many days they actually spend with the big club. You want to know what this really looks like? Picture Michael Chaput, who played parts of 8 NHL seasons but never stuck permanently, finishing with about 200 NHL games spread across multiple teams. Imagine living out of suitcases, never knowing if you'll be playing in front of 20,000 fans or 2,000 fans on any given night. But it gets crazier. Teams rely on these players to fill specific roles, whether that's killing penalties, taking important defensive zone faceoffs, or simply providing energy on the fourth line. The constant travel and uncertainty can be mentally exhausting, but these players are still living their NHL dreams, even if it's not exactly how they pictured it. Many call-ups have one specific skill that makes them valuable in short spurts, like exceptional face-off percentages or penalty killing ability. They might only play 8 to 10 minutes per game when they're up, but coaches trust them not to hurt the team. Here's what really matters though. The financial difference between AHL and NHL salary means every single day in the NHL counts. Level 4 introduces us to the fourth line specialist. Finally, we're talking about guys with actual NHL jobs. These players have secured regular NHL spots, but their role is very specific, playing 8 to 12 minutes per night on the fourth line. They make between $1 and $2.5 million per year and focus on energy, physical play, and momentum shifts rather than scoring. Want to see what this looks like in real life? Tanner Jeannot exemplifies this role, averaging just 10 points per season but delivering over 200 hits and creating space for his teammates through physical play. But here's what fans don't understand. Fourth-line specialists know their job isn't to score goals, but to wear down opponents, win battles along the boards, and give their team's stars a breather. They're often the players starting fights, finishing every single check, and making life miserable for the other team's skill players. You know what's fascinating? Coaches absolutely love these players because they bring consistency and know exactly what's expected of them every night. Many fourth-liners actually have longer careers than more skilled players because their game doesn't rely on speed or hands that deteriorate with age. They excel on the penalty kill, block shots fearlessly, and take pride in the dirty work that doesn't show up on the score sheet. Teams that win Stanley Cups always have strong fourth lines that can change momentum with one good shift. The best fourth-liners can occasionally chip in a timely goal, but their real value comes from playing a simple, effective game. Level 5 is where we find third-line contributors. This is where things start getting interesting from a tactical perspective. These players see 12 to 15 minutes of ice time per game and make between $2.5 and $5 million annually. They're expected to play responsible two-way hockey while chipping in 20 to 30 points per season. Let me tell you about Lars Eller, who made an entire career as a reliable third-line center, winning face-offs, killing penalties, and occasionally providing secondary scoring. But wait, here's what makes these guys special. Third-liners are often former top six players who've adapted their games to fill a checking role, or younger players still developing their offensive skills. Picture this scenario: your team's superstars just got hemmed in their own zone for a minute straight. They're exhausted, and now you need someone to go out there and match up against the other team's top line. That's when third-liners earn their money. The best third-line contributors can slide up to the second line when injuries hit without looking out of place. You know what's crazy? Teams with strong third lines often make deep playoff runs because they have the depth to roll four lines consistently. These players need to be smart positionally, as they can't rely on pure skill to bail them out of mistakes. Many third-liners become valuable trade deadline additions for contending teams looking to add depth. They're also often wearing letters as alternate captains, providing leadership and experience to younger players. The third-line center position is particularly important, as they take key defensive zone faceoffs and anchor the penalty kill. Stepping up to level 6, we encounter second-line regulars. Now we're talking about legitimate offensive players. These guys log 15 to 18 minutes per night, contribute 40 to 60 points per season, and earn between $4 and $7 million. They're legitimate top six forwards who face tough competition but are expected to produce offense consistently. Here's a story that'll blow your mind. William Karlsson was a fourth-line grinder in Columbus, then Vegas claimed him in the expansion draft, and boom, he scored 43 goals in his first season there. That's the difference opportunity makes at this level. Second-liners often play on the second power play unit and get offensive zone starts when coaches want to generate scoring chances. But here's the challenge. They need to create their own offense without always having the team's best playmaker setting them up. Many second-line players are specialists, either snipers who finish plays or playmakers who create for others. The pressure on second-liners is intense because they're paid to produce but don't get the same favorable matchups as the first line. You want to know something interesting? Teams with strong second lines can roll two scoring units, making them much harder to defend against. These players often have career years when playing with elite line mates, then struggle to maintain that production elsewhere. Contract negotiations for second-liners can be tricky, as teams debate whether they're true top six players or just benefiting from good situations. The best second-liners can carry a line themselves, making average line mates look better through their play-driving ability. Level 7 brings us to first-line players, the guys teams build around. We're in elite territory now. They play 18 to 22 minutes per night, score 60 to 80 points, and make between $7 and $10 million. These are your Mark Schieffel and Kyle Connors, players who drive offense and face the toughest competition every night. But let me tell you what this really means. First-liners need to produce consistently against shutdown defensemen and checking lines specifically designed to stop them. Every single night, the other team's coach is drawing up plans to neutralize these guys. They get the majority of power play time, often logging over 4 minutes per game with the man advantage. Teams literally structure their entire offensive systems around getting these players the puck in dangerous areas. Here's the pressure though. First-line players can't have many off nights because their teams rely on them for offense. They need elite skating, hands, and hockey sense to create plays under pressure. Many first-liners are former first-round picks who've lived up to their potential, though some late bloomers emerge through hard work and development. You know what nobody talks about? The mental side of being a first-liner is demanding, as media and fans scrutinize every single shift. These players often wear letters and are expected to lead by example both on and off the ice. The difference between a good first-liner and a great one often comes down to playoff performance, as the best players elevate their games when it matters most. Level 8 introduces the power play specialist, a unique category of player who might not be a regular first-liner, but becomes invaluable with the man advantage. These players make between $5 and $8 million and are kept on rosters specifically for their power play prowess. Here's a perfect example that'll make this clear. Mike Hoffman built his entire career on having an elite shot from the left circle on the power play, scoring 15 to 20 power play goals annually even when his 5-on-5 play declined. Think about that. A guy who might be a third liner at even strength, but becomes one of the most dangerous players in the league with an extra man. Power play specialists often have one elite skill, whether it's a cannon of a shot, exceptional vision, or the ability to win battles in front of the net. Teams design their entire power play entries and formations around these players' strengths. Some specialists only play 10 to 12 minutes at even strength, but log 3 to 4 minutes on the power play. Here's the challenge, and it's a big one. These players need to prove they're worth a roster spot when they're not contributing at even strength. Smart coaches find ways to shelter these players defensively while maximizing their offensive opportunities. Many power play specialists extend their careers by accepting reduced roles, but maintaining their effectiveness with the man advantage. You know when these guys become most valuable? Teams in playoff races often trade for these players at the deadline to boost their struggling power plays. The pressure on power play specialists is unique because everyone knows exactly why they're on the ice. Level 9 showcases the penalty kill expert, the defensive equivalent of a power play specialist. These players earn between $3 and $6 million and might only score 20 points per year. But their value comes from shutting down opposing power plays. Let me paint you a picture. Brandon Tanev uses his speed and tenacity to disrupt entries and create shorthanded chances, turning defense into offense. But it's so much more than that. Penalty kill experts need elite skating, intelligence to read plays before they develop, and the courage to block shots consistently. They often play regular fourth-line minutes at even strength, but see their ice time spike when their team takes penalties. Here's what's really impressive. The best penalty killers turn defense into offense, creating shorthanded breakaways through aggressive pressure. Coaches trust these players in the final minutes of close games when protecting a lead. You want to know something most fans miss? Many penalty kill experts are former offensive players who completely transformed their games to stay in the NHL. They study video religiously, learning opponents' power play tendencies and entry patterns. Teams with strong penalty kills often feature 2 or 3 of these specialists who've played together for years. The physical toll of penalty killing is significant, as these players absorb more punishment from shots and battles than anyone else. Contract negotiations for penalty kill specialists can be interesting, as their value doesn't show up in traditional statistics. Some players build entire careers on being elite penalty killers, earning respect from teammates and coaches. Reaching level 10, we find NHL AllStars. Now we're getting into household name territory. These players make between $8 and $11 million, regularly score 70-plus points, and earn trips to the annual All-Stars game. They're household names among hockey fans, players like Johnny Gaudreau and Mika Zibanejad, who consistently rank among the league leaders in scoring. But becoming an All-Star isn't just about one good season. All-Stars have usually been elite players for at least 3 to 4 seasons, proving their success isn't a fluke. They get nominated for major awards, appear in national commercials, and become the faces of their franchises. Here's what separates them from regular first-liners. The jump from first-line player to all-star often comes from consistency and durability, playing 75-plus games while maintaining high production. All-stars influence how teams game plan, as coaches design specific strategies to limit their effectiveness. They're expected to perform in big games, whether that's playoffs, outdoor games, or national television matchups. Many all-stars are team captains or alternate captains, setting the standard for work ethic and professionalism. But here's the dark side nobody talks about. The pressure of being an all-star includes constant media attention and fan expectations that can be overwhelming. These players often have no trade clauses and are considered untouchable unless they request moves. All-star voting can be controversial, as fan favorites sometimes get selected over more deserving players, but true all-stars prove their worth regardless. Level 11 represents elite players, the guys who transcend being just all-stars. These players earn between $10 and $13 million, consistently finish top 10 in scoring, and are perennial MVP candidates. Think Mikko Rantanen or Adam Fox, players who dominate games and make everyone around them better. But here's what makes them special, and pay attention to this. Elite players don't just score points. They control play whenever they're on the ice, posting exceptional underlying numbers in shot attempts and scoring chances. They're matchup-proof, producing against any competition in any situation. Picture Nathan MacKinnon exploding through the neutral zone, or Kirill Kaprizov's deceptive shot release that goalies know is coming but can't stop. These players change how teams construct their rosters, as organizations build specifically to complement their elite talent. They're worth their massive contracts because they single-handedly make teams playoff contenders. Elite players maintain their level for extended periods, not just having 1 or 2 great seasons, but dominating for 5 to 10 years. They win major awards, lead their countries in international competitions, and become ambassadors for the sport. You know what really separates them? The difference between all-stars and elite players often comes down to playoff performance and ability to elevate in crucial moments. Organizations that draft and develop elite players usually compete for championships throughout those players' primes. Level 12 brings us to the superstar tier, where only 15 to 20 players in the entire league reside. These players make between $12 and $15 million, win MVP awards, and completely alter how opponents prepare for games. Austin Matthews, Cale Makar, and Igor Shesterkin represent this tier, players who are arguably the best in the world at their positions. Let me explain what this really means for the game. Superstars don't just lead their teams in scoring. They change the entire complexion of games through their presence alone. Teams employ specific defensive schemes designed solely to limit these players' effectiveness. Think about that. Entire game plans built around stopping one player. Superstars sell jerseys, drive ticket sales, and make their franchises must-watch television. They score at point-per-game paces or better, save 25 more goals than average goalies, or completely revolutionize their positions. But here's the burden they carry. The pressure on superstars is immense, as entire cities' hopes rest on their shoulders. They're expected to deliver championships, not just individual success. Many superstars have been groomed for this role since they were teenagers, handling media and expectations throughout their development. These players sign maximum contracts that eat up significant portions of their team's salary caps. The business side of being a superstar includes endorsement deals, signature equipment lines, and appearance obligations. Teams go through decades of futility hoping to draft just one superstar who can change their franchise's fortunes. Ascending to level 13, we discover franchise players. Only 30 to 40 players in NHL history truly deserve this designation, and fewer than 10 active players qualify. These players define their organizations for generations, like Sidney Crosby with Pittsburgh or Alex Ovechkin with Washington. But it goes so much deeper than just playing hockey. Franchise players don't just excel on the ice, they transform their team's cultures, attendance figures, and championship expectations. They sign career-long contracts, have their numbers retired, and get statues built outside arenas. Here's what makes them different from superstars. Franchise players maintain elite production for 10 to 15 years, aging gracefully while adapting their games. They win multiple championships, MVP awards, and become synonymous with their cities. Young players dream of wearing their numbers, and teammates elevate their games just by sharing the ice with them. The responsibility is enormous. franchise players handle enormous pressure with grace, becoming spokesmen for their teams and the sport itself. They're involved in major organizational decisions, from coaching hires to free agent recruitment. You want to know the real impact? The financial impact of franchise players extends beyond ticket sales to television ratings, merchandise, and regional economic benefits. These players often take slightly below-market contracts to help their teams remain competitive. When franchise players eventually retire, their organizations often struggle for years trying to replace the irreplaceable. The legacy of franchise players lasts generations, with their highlights played before games and their standards becoming organizational mantras. Level 14 represents generational talents, the rarest category with only 1 or 2 players per decade achieving this status. Currently, only Connor McDavid truly qualifies, though Connor Bedard might join him. Let me tell you what makes these players different from everyone else. Generational talents don't just dominate, they revolutionize how hockey is played. They score at paces not seen in decades, making the impossible look routine nightly. Watch McDavid for one game and you'll see what I mean. His combination of speed, skill, and vision has forced teams to completely reimagine defensive strategies. But here's the insane part. Generational talents win scoring titles by 20-plus points, capture multiple MVP awards before age 25, and drag mediocre teams to playoff contention single-handedly. They break records thought unbreakable and create highlights that define eras. The pressure, though? It's unlike anything else in sports. The pressure on generational talents begins before they're even drafted, with expectations that would crush normal players. They're compared constantly to legends like Gretzky and Lemieux rather than their contemporaries. Generational talents influence rule changes, as the league tries to either showcase their skills or prevent them from being neutralized. They become global ambassadors for hockey, growing the game in non-traditional markets through their brilliance. These players sign the maximum allowable contracts but are still underpaid relative to their impact. Teams mortgage futures trying to surround generational talents with enough support to win championships. The tragedy is that some generational talents never win Stanley Cups despite their individual dominance. Finally, level 15 brings us to GOAT candidates, players legitimately in the conversation for greatest of all time. Throughout NHL history, only a few such as the likes of Wayne Gretzky, Mario Lemieux, Bobby Orr, and Gordie Howe indisputably belong here. These players didn't just dominate their eras, they transcended sport itself. Let me give you some perspective on just how insane these guys were. Gretzky's 9 MVP awards and 2,857 points will likely never be approached. Think about that. More assists than anyone else has total points. Lemieux averaged nearly 2 points per game despite battling cancer and back problems, or revolutionized the defenseman position while winning 8 consecutive Norris trophies. Howe played professionally across 4 decades, remaining elite into his 40s. But here's what really sets them apart. GOAT candidates own records that seem fictional, accomplishments that make you question if the stats are even real. They won multiple championships while maintaining individual dominance that defied logic. These players changed hockey's popularity, rules, and style of play permanently. Modern players like McDavid might eventually enter this conversation, but it requires sustained excellence across entire careers. GOAT candidates become larger-than-life figures whose impacts extend far beyond statistics. They inspire generations of players who wear their numbers in youth hockey. The debate over hockey's true GOAT will never be settled, but that's what makes it endlessly fascinating. These players achieved immortality through their play, becoming permanent fixtures in hockey lore. If this breakdown helped you understand hockey better, do not forget to leave a like and a subscribe. Thanks for watching, and let me know in the comments which level surprised you most.